Hey everybody. Bet you weren't expecting to get the video this early. Unless of course you saw the community post, then you'd know I was done by now. But yeah, here it is. The next volume review. This was a lot quicker than I expected, especially because yesterday I read chapters 66 to 74, which was a lot, but I was able to do it. And then, as of today, the translations for 75 just came out, and I also read them today. And, now I'm recording this, so there's that. But, yeah, I've been a little bit busy lately, so it's been a little bit hard to actually read those chapters I mentioned, for a variety of reasons. One of them being these little goobers right here. Yeah, they look cute, don't they? Their names are Sachi and Kobe. They're neat. But, yeah. So we're here. Let's finally talk about this volume. Because, man, I'm excited. Right? I mentioned it with the previous volume, I think. But I'm excited. I'm very excited to talk about some things here. Let's go. So fuck the idea of the B-plots and everything. We're going right back to Subaru's perspective, and we're sitting there the whole ass time. So, we're on the Gladiator Island now. Something I've been, very much looking forward to see how it is and everything. Especially since Al mentioned it. And now we get to see it. Essentially, now, Subaru's here and everything. He can't really escape because there's witch beasts in the water. That's a bit of a problem. There's also a curse rule where, breaking that rule, you'll just fucking die. That's also a problem. And an interesting little thing is that it seems like Cecilus has been a child for so long now that he can't remember shit. More specifically, he can't remember the 9 divine generals, which is definitely something big, seeing as, he's number 1 on that list. And he doesn't remember them. But, yeah. But now, Subaru has to participate in the, activities of the island, essentially. More specifically, at the current moment, he has to participate in what's known as Sparka, which kinda, essentially, is the, tutorial for becoming a gladiator in a way, right? It's the way to essentially get to that rank. And now, Subaru has to do that with a group of people that he barely knows, who we do actually know their names, because they will be showing up a whole lot in this volume. And that's Hiane, Idra, and Waits. Just assume that's how you say all the names, but who cares? Because really, until we get an animated, version or anything like that, I don't think we'll probably know. Unless it actually says it in the volumes, which, in that case, damn. But anyways, we meet all of them, and now they participate in Sparka. And there's a lot of loops here. Mostly because they're fighting a witch beast. Specifically, I think they're fighting a, dehorned, guilty low or something, which is fitting that that's Subaru's opponent, considering his whip. But, which he doesn't have, of course. But, now all of them have to fight this thing. And there's a lot of loops where different things essentially happen, right? Different interactions with this group. And it actually makes them all pretty interesting, right? Because it gives all sorts of different, perspectives into what, each of these loops kind of play off of, right? Play into all that. So I do actually really like that. But, essentially, Subaru has to figure out how does he handle this thing. There's 2 swords there, and, they both have pros and cons to them. And it's just him and his group trying to figure out what to do. And eventually, they figure it out. Kind of. Because after doing a whole bunch of shit, it still doesn't amount to enough. It's still there, still alive, and they could very easily die. Except, Subaru wasn't the only one who came to this island. Because you might remember, from the previous volume, he actually made it here with Tanza as well. He was carrying her the whole time. And this whole time she was asleep, despite being part of this group. She was asleep. more so knocked out, but out of nowhere, just runs in and decapitates the beast, because she's pretty damn strong. And I think they actually mentioned that that's part of Yorna's whole relationship with her, but I think it also might just be, her. But still, they, essentially pass the Sparka, and now Subaru is like all buddy-buddy with these guys, as well as a few other gladiators and all that, right? He's going around talking to a whole lot of them, trying to figure out what to do. Tenz is not really huge on, him just what seems like goofing around, but he's trying to figure out a plan here and everything. And he wants to see the drawbridge, which we find out that it gets lifted out of the ocean, which is a problem, because it's not as simple as, oh, we just wait for it to go down and then we run, or some shit like that. It comes out of the water, and if it's not there, we're fucked. So, it becomes a lot more complicated than that. But then past this point, Subaru's like talking some more with the big man, like the big man in control of the whole island, Gustav, because essentially Subaru, fucked around a little bit to help out Hien with his friends and everything that were there. He essentially tried to get himself punished on purpose so that he could enter another Sparka, which had Hien's friends in there. He helped them out, and then Hien feels like grateful to him and everything. But that wasn't really the point. It's just more so that like happened and everything, right? He wanted to figure some stuff out, as well as speak to Gustav and everything, or in a way like he did want to speak to Gustav as an objective there. He also had a bottle, like a very small bottle of poison that he just hid behind his molars. That is really fucking impressive to hide that the whole last time. Like, I mean, more so like specifically for the events that happened past this. That is really impressive. But anyways, he has that the whole time, just in case, right? As an easy out if he has to, because he's abusing Return by Death all over here. And I saw people complaining about that on a whole bunch of things, like, oh, this doesn't really make sense, because, the whole thing with, like, Arc 4 and all that shit and all this, it's like, the whole point was that he's not abusing the ability. Here's the thing, you make a great point. Counterpoint, he is a child. He does not remember these things. He is forgetting a lot. And also, it's this whole thing of, like, I don't know, I don't really feel like with this scenario, it's become, like, that much of a shocker to him or anything like that, that he may have to die a lot and everything, right? He already had to die a lot with the Sparka. So it's not really surprising that, oh wow, he has to die a lot more later, right? I don't know, that's just me. I think that, but also, more so the child thing, I mean, he is forgetting a lot. Look at Cecilis. He doesn't even remember he was in the 9 Divine Generals. There's a problem here, right? But, anyways, he's talking to Gustav, and after talking to him, we learn that the curse rule is kind of just a bunch of hot air. It's not. We'll get to that. But what it seems like overall is it's a bunch of hot air. It's not real. It's made up so that the gladiators can essentially be in such a control that it's not like they're shitting themselves in fear constantly 24/7, but it's not like they think, oh, well, this is easy, we can just, like, relax, we can slack off, all this shit, right? It's this sort of thing where it's like they can still properly be gladiators putting on a show. So, essentially that's what it is. It's not, once again, we'll get to that. But then Subaru goes back to the group, and because of Hien's friends, there's some rumors going around about Subaru, because you might remember once again from the previous volume some stuff involving Vincent, and that was the fact that he was trying to get the word out about his missing child, right, his missing son with black hair and black eyes. That got out to the point that it is now here in the island. That rumor is here. So now everybody there thinks, oh shit, that's Vincent's son. And, the way Subaru is describing his dad, his own dad, kind of correlates with that, right? It connects properly. So there's some suspicion there. But then after a bit, another carriage is coming into the island and all this, right? And now we get the problem of like this whole scenario, and that's the people on this carriage are Arakia and Todd, and all of a sudden, while they're trying to figure out what to do, people are dying. Subaru's like kind of okay. He's not in great shape, but he is still alive, which is interesting. But everybody else is dying and all this shit, and he's still kind of alive. And then Todd shows up. He doesn't recognize him, but doesn't really matter. Either Subaru dies to the knife or he just poisons himself and all that. And he tries to poison himself. And unfortunately, it's not like some sort of proper poison. It's not something that would be painless and kill him. In fact, it is very painful, and it is a problem for him. But it does kill him, so there's that. But then we loop, and the problem really hasn't changed much, because instead, this time, he goes to speak to Cecilis about, certain things and all that. Just a whole bunch of shit. But then, Cecilis dies, because the same events are playing out. But it does show that, okay, he didn't avoid this or anything like that, right? There was nothing to that. It's like, he's still gonna die to this. And then, once again, Todd shows up. Subaru dies, but not before essentially realizing, oh, the curse rule is real. I said that out loud, and I'm now realizing I could make a very obvious edit here. Yeah, you know what? Put it on screen. The curse rule is real, but we don't know fully what it is. And as he realizes that, Todd just kills him, right? Because he realizes, oh shit, he figured it out. Die. But then we loop, and now with a better strategy in mind, Subaru has the idea, of course, to learn more. And via, him using Hiein's, essentially camouflage, right, because he's a wizard, essentially using his camouflage, they're able to enter the room and perfectly, disguise themselves so that they can hear the conversation and understand what happened, right? As well as Wade's also kind of slowing down the carriage outside. But after that whole thing, right, he hears Todd and Arakia speaking to Gustav, and we learn that the Prime Minister would like to just get rid of everybody on the island, right? He'd just like to remove all of them, right? Kill them, right? Now, Gustav doesn't like that for a large variety of reasons. One of the biggest being, His Excellency made this rule, and he also specifically said, no matter what, don't disobey this rule. No matter what I say or what somebody else says, don't disobey this rule. So that becomes a problem for them. And then Arakia just kills him. So there he goes. And then they get the curse tool, right? Big ol' black orb and everything. And, it's essentially that can just kill everybody there. Luckily, by causing a big disturbance there and everything, Subaru and Hiein are able to just grab the orb and run out, and now Todd and Arakia have to follow in all this shit. And Todd creates a commotion by essentially saying, hey, those two killed Gustav, there's a problem now, okay, that's all. And they're still killing the gladiators and shit there. I mean, the guards believe him and all that, right, and they're not going to kill the guards, but everybody else, the gladiators, they don't care, they're just going to kill them. And now, Subaru and Hiein are in a situation, they eventually regroup with Tanza and Waits and Idra, and I mean, the old man who made his poison is now dead, because there's also, witch beasts on the loose and everything. And now, they're getting, Subaru to confess about the whole, oh, you're Vincent's son, aren't you, and all this shit, and Subaru's confused as shit as to what's going on, all this. But eventually, after figuring some things out, they find a plan that they can overall use to fuck with Todd, which is essentially saying, hey, he's Vincent's son, also we have the curse tool, so we can fuck you over there, but also, he's Vincent's son, yeah, we're leading this rebellion and all this shit, what are you gonna do? He doesn't really care about that. In fact, whole ass fight begins and everything with a witch beast there and all that, and Todd fighting them. And now we get something very interesting that I was really hoping this series would kind of delve into at some point, which I guess we kind of had almost, not really, like, but we've kind of done something similar to this before in a way, a little bit, but it's the idea that the loops keep getting shorter and shorter with the amount of time passing. Like, it's essentially getting further in, to the point that stuff is becoming permanent. Or at least, you know, it feels like that. And just Todd is killing them each one by one and all this shit, you know. Waits gets hit real hard and then stuff collapses. He throws Tanza out the, like, collapsed wall. All this shit, like, Hien gets slashed. And also during all this, we get their, like, backstories, like the backstories of all the other gladiators and all that. I think Hien's is actually earlier, like when Subaru's helping him out with his friends and everything. But we get their backstories, and I do appreciate that, because I, of course, give us more on them, and I do really like that. But, you know, this is happening for a while, and it's not really going too well. It's going further in. Subaru doesn't know what to do. The situation is really fucking bad. And then we get to what is equivalent of chapters 74 and 75. And oh my lord. Same loop happens again. But essentially Idra is now, like, helping out and trying to give Subaru and Hien time to run. Hien's, like, been stabbed in the back so he can barely run and all this shit, and he's, like, falling over, right? Like, just collapsing dead. And all this shit. And then eventually Subaru encounters Cecilos, who is, like, half his body is just charred, right? Because he was fighting Arakia. And, you know, that's interesting, all this shit. And oh boy, 75. Here's what I want to say before I go into my thoughts about 75, right? I've seen a lot of opinions of this chapter fucking sucks and all this sort of shit online. I think this chapter is fantastic. I absolutely love this chapter. I'm going to go into all the details here because I really can't wait to speak about it. So, Subaru encounters Cecilos and they, you know, speak to each other a little bit here and there. Eventually, Subaru runs away while he fights Arakia, and we get this interaction between the two of them that, you know, still does show that Cecilos doesn't know who she is or who the other generals are, but Arakia, you know, fully recognizes him, knows who he is, all this shit, realizes that the stuff he's saying is incredibly similar to, you know, actual Cecilos, all this shit. She knows it's him, essentially. But then Subaru's running away, and oh my god, this moment. So, after running away for a bit, he encounters Tanza, who is in horrible shape right now. Incredibly wounded. I think she's missing an eye, if I remember correctly, or something like that. There's like blood over her eye, I think, or something like that, but like, I think she was missing an eye. One of her horns is broken. She's in real bad shape. Like, she should not be alive. It's to the point that, like, you know, Subaru feels bad about everything that's been done, because, you know, time keeps getting closer and closer to the point that shit might get, like, become permanent, right? And that's a problem for him, and he collapses, and he, like, feels guilty because he feels he's responsible for all this. And she starts running to him, and she is bleeding that whole time, like, you know, from her sides and everything, and it's like, fuck, I really do feel bad for her. It's like, oh my god. But then she speaks to him, and she gives him, like, a fantastic speech and everything. And it's just like, it's not, doesn't make her worthy of top 10 yet. Like, not even what's happened in this chapter makes her worthy of top 10 yet. But oh my god, I almost want to put her as an honorable mention, dude. She, like, I've been very interested to see how, like, what she becomes as a character. And I had a feeling, right, for a while, honestly, since she got introduced, that, oh, she'll probably be part of this main group and everything. And here she is, part of the main group, and she's actually playing a bigger role. I love it. They're giving her some great stuff, and it's like, like I said, I don't know that she's top 10 material, but my god, she's good, right? Just this and everything, I'm really enjoying her. I also just really like her design, I just want to say that. I do really enjoy her design. But, yeah, now Tan shows up, and this is a problem, because, you know, Tanza's hurt, Subaru's hurt, all this. Tanza can still kind of fight, but, you know, Tan's kind of weary, and he's also not in a great mood right now. But And then Subaru starts speaking to him, and he's asking him some shit and everything, and saying a whole bunch of stuff. And then he says something. I screamed when I fucking read this. I'm being real. I was so bewildered by this. Subaru outright says to him, "I can return by death." He is not stopped. He says it. Todd hears it. Tenza hears it. It is heard. And I was fucking bewildered by this. Now, it made sense. The beasts from earlier weren't being attracted to him, so that actually, added up. But it was just like, holy shit, he said it. He actually said it. They heard him. This wasn't some like, oh, he's in a different area, so technically speaking, he can say it. Which, even then, he couldn't because, seeing as what happened directly after in Arc 4, it didn't really work out that way. But, like, he says it, and he can say it. And it's crazy to me, and all this shit. And then after having his own, like, inner monologue and everything, he eventually just says, like, "Come and find me, Satella," and immediately she, finds him, gives him back everything, all that shit, and also his scent, which now all the, like, beasts are coming this way. And now Tom tries to fight them. Tenza crushes one of his arms with a rock that she throws, and Subaru fucking punches him and then flips him off. That moment was really great, and Todd just runs away. He realizes, fuck it, the beasts are coming here, they just did this shit to me, fuck that. And he just runs away, because, he has some fear there, right? Like, it's what he previously mentioned about, like, getting rid of something if, there's some fear and all that, like, attached to it. But then Subaru gives the curse tool to Tenza and tells her to, like, make sure to protect it and all this shit and a whole bunch of stuff. And then, passes on and all that. And then we get another thing I was very much hoping for this series to go into, and that was the idea that a reset point could be set backwards to an earlier reset point. This is something I've wanted for a while, and I'm gonna be real, I don't really see why people are complaining so much about this, because it wasn't ever said that, like, this couldn't happen. It totally could. They never outright said, no, that can't happen. No, it wasn't established or anything. So we could totally do that. No problem. And it happens. We go back to an earlier point. Todd and Arakia are going there. But now, Subaru has the entire group of him, the gladiators, all that, waiting at the bridge. Todd gets afraid and he just grabs the fucking horse and turns around. All that shit. They run away. Also, Gustav and the others now think, Subaru's the son of Vincent. But he did actually go out of his way to tell Tenza that he isn't. Much like how earlier, before they knew about the curse tool, he told Tenza that the curse rule wasn't real, but, like, the others still believed it was, and everything he didn't tell them. Similar to that, he does that with the whole Vincent thing, which I like that he's telling her the truth and all that. And now he has a whole army to him that he is just, like, ready to use and all this shit. And also, Cecilis has joined the team. That is 2 now. We officially have 2 Divine Generals. We've made progress. He has an army. We have 2 Divine Generals, technically, because I guess Yorna's, gonna associate with all of them. We did it. We made it progress with Arc 7. It is insane. But we actually did it. Holy shit. This chapter was fantastic. I love chapter 75. Holy shit, dude. So I'm gonna be real with all of you. This might be a wild opinion, I don't know. I don't know if it's some contrarian type of opinion. I don't know what the general opinion on this volume is, all over every single social media, website and app. But I'm gonna be real with you. This is my favorite volume so far of Arc 7. There was so much shit here that was just good, right? it's crazy to me because like previous volumes haven't been bad, right? I like them, but there were like there was things there that kind of put them down for me a little bit, right? First two volumes were great, but a lot of it was just setup. It was just set up for, you know, stuff that's gonna happen later and all this, or like just to give you a better understanding of stuff. I didn't really feel like there was anything too insane there, right? There was some neat stuff there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it was just like, okay, right, like this is setting up for some stuff. We get the next volume after that, and that does have some big moments, as well as it sets up for some stuff. But I don't know, it doesn't have that proper feel to it, right? It doesn't have everything there that sometimes makes a like fantastic ReZero volume, right? Then we have the volume after that, right? Volume 29, I believe. Yeah, 29. And that one's really good. That one's probably like my second favorite out of Arc 7. And it's like, that one's great. My only problem with it is the stuff involving the people looking for Tanza and all that shit, right? Being affected by like the whole Chaos Flame type of stuff, right? Yorna's ability. I feel like that part drags on a little bit. It only really got interesting when, you know, we see Subaru and Louis and like they start running around, right? Because after the whole reveal about Louis, it gets interesting there. But it's like before that, it's neat to see the ability and how it works, but I think it drags on a bit too long, right? That's my real complaint with that one. The next volume, you know, volume 30, I'm gonna be real. If it wasn't for the like first, I'd probably say like the first volume, just being generally like decent, right? Like nothing insane, still good, but nothing insane. This one would probably be the lowest, just because first half's okay, right? It's decent, but I don't think there's anything like too big there for me personally, right? I think some bits of it actually also do kind of drag on. A lot of it is like, it's obvious on why, of course, but a lot of it is just we're dealing with the Great Calamity, and it's just like, wow, this is going on for like how many chapters now, right? Like, how many are we doing this for? So it's a little bit unfortunate to me that it ends up being like that, right? And then the second half, I think is great, but then there's also the whole thing I mentioned with the problem, which I know there's some stuff that isn't as bad because of side stories and all that, but I do think it is still a problem to introduce these or like not introduce, but reintroduce these characters and everything, and throw them back in the story this early. Like I said, we have not made that much progress. We've only now, I feel like, have made an insane amount of progress and everything. I don't know, it felt a little bit too early for me to be doing something like that. But maybe that just helps in a way, I guess. But I don't know. But then we get to this volume, and it's like, it has everything I could hope for, right? Has some neat fights in there and everything. It gives us some new characters and establishes them well. All this shit, right? Insane moments, really insane moments. All that good setting up for stuff and everything. If I had to give like one complaint, I guess, there is one thing that I was hoping for. And at one point they mentioned the fact that, you know, higher ups, right, people like, for example, the Prime Minister, could just show up here in the, like, Gladiator Island and, you know, watch some of the shows going on. My thought process with this, when I learned this info, was, oh, what might happen is, you know, he shows up here, and with all, like, the other people that are in, you know, that mansion and all that shit. But then, also, so does Ren by proxy, right? She sees Subaru do something like heroic, and that snaps, right? It snaps within her. Right? But we really don't get much on that because it's like, okay, past that, it is just, you know, well, like he has a whole army, he has Bacillus, they're gonna leave now, right? So it's like, okay, well, there goes that. It's neat to bring it up, of course, but it just kind of feels like, eh. But overall, that's fine and everything. But I do think, like, this volume is really great. I can see why some people would have some problems here and there with it, but overall, to me, I think it works out really well. It's a well-structured volume that I don't think has too many problems, really. But, you know, I could see how some people wouldn't possibly enjoy it here and there. And I will say, random thing I want to mention, but this is just more so about Arc 7. But I have noticed people saying this, or rather I saw like a specific tweet about it, and it really resonated with me a whole lot. And listen, I know I bring up a lot of One Piece examples, but please hear me out on this one, okay? Please. I'm not obsessed. Just hear me out on this one, okay? I saw a lot of people comparing the, I guess, what would have been current arc of One Piece. I mean, it's done now, but current arc of One Piece, which was Wano, more specifically the Onigashima stuff, to, you know, Arc 7 of ReZero, right? Now, like, hear me out on this whole thing, right? They were essentially mentioning the fact that, like, both arcs feel very similar, because they're introducing a whole bunch of characters, like, left and right, just out of nowhere, new characters, all this shit. It feels very bloated and all this. Some stuff, right, like some story-related things get brought up and don't really get used and all that. And while I don't think all of those points, I don't know, I personally agree with, like, I'm gonna be real, the story points being brought up and they're not really getting used. I don't know, man, I didn't really feel like, I didn't really feel like those actually were that bad. I mean, the obvious thing that people were bringing up was the whole, like, fake out deaths and everything, but, like, I don't know, thought that stuff was fine, personally. I'm weird, I know. I have bad taste. Remember, my favorite character is that one. So, you know. But, overall, I felt like that part was fine, but I do have to agree on the idea that these arcs are kind of bloated. Because, oh my god, we are, what, like, 7 volumes into Arc 7, something like that? Or I think we might be at 6 now. Are we at 6? I think we're at 6. Yeah, I think we're at 6. We'll be at 7 soon, and we'll probably be further than that soon, because I don't think we're ending it with the next volume. But, you know, actually, wait, I think we are at, are we at 7? I actually don't know, because I think I wrote down in my notes that I put 7. I did, didn't I? Oh my god, we're at 7, aren't we? Oh shit. Oh shit, wait, yeah, 26, 27, 28, 29. Oh my god, we are. Wait, no, that's 6, I'm stupid. I literally just showed my fingers and I just... Okay, well, next we'll be at 7. Why did I write down 7? You know what, who cares about that point? But, more so, let's focus on the fact that, yeah, we've been going on for a while now with Arc 7, and it's weird that we've made no progress. I will say, Teppei's been very condensed with the volumes, right? Starting volume was not nearly as long as other starting volumes. It was like, what, 12 chapters? Usual starting volumes are like 19, 20, something like that. That is 8 chapters less. That doesn't sound significant, but when you're reading the series, you realize, oh yeah, that's very significant. But, you know, it's definitely been shorter volume-wise. But, it's like, man, we haven't really made much progress at all, or anything. I mean, now we finally are, and I'm happy for it. But it's just like, yeah, we've been just kind of going, and eventually we'll get to the end. But this is going to be a long arc. Like, oh my god. I'm going to, you know, I'm collecting all this shit, you know, in English, which unfortunately still going to be a while till Arc 7. I am excited, though, because Arc 5 shall be done, hopefully by November. Hopefully. And that'll be neat, because then I get to start Arc 6 collecting. But, yeah, collecting Arc 7 is going to be a bitch, because that's going to take me, like, I don't know, like, that might be like 3 or 4 years. That's scary. But it's like, fuck, I do wish, you know, we got to the proper point of everything, right? Like, we reached the conclusion a bit faster and all this, or at least just, you know, keep up the pace of going through the story. I like setup, I like stuff being brought up and all this shit, and new characters, but oh my god, please, just get, like, further into it. I mean, there are characters who we know are showing up in Arc 7, and they still haven't shown up, like, 6 volumes in. Like, what the fuck? I don't know, to me, it's just wild, because it's like, damn, I was hoping by this point we'd have some good progress, but, I mean, I guess now we do. We do now, but you know, I do kind of wish we had that earlier. But yeah, overall this volume was pretty damn good, and it makes me very happy, and I'm excited to see what comes next. So, yeah, time for the next volume. Except for all of you watching this video, to end off this video, I will instead give you a hint towards the summer video, which is weird, I know, but hey, that big summer video is coming out soon, and it's going to be very nice. I think pretty much anybody on the channel could enjoy it. There's a lot of shit that's going to be talked about in there. Like, I'm being real. I think quite literally anybody could probably watch it and be like, oh, I know that series. He's going to talk about that now. That's interesting. Maybe I should listen to that. I feel like most people will be able to enjoy it. You know, if not, it's fine. But, you know, I think there should be something in there for everybody. And speaking of something in there for everybody, you might have noticed something in the room now. I'm not pointing out what it is. I will give a hint, it's not that. That is a hint for something else. But it's not related to the summer video. There is, however, a hint in here, and I hope the camera can actually pick it up, because I'm gonna be real, I don't fully know. It should be able to. But, yeah. We're gonna stand here, right, and there should be a hint related to it that hasn't been here before, right? Something that hasn't been here before, that is here now, that's related to the summer video, that I'm going to speak about. And I'm going to speak about it a decent bit. There's obviously a whole lot of other stuff. But yeah, there's something here. See if you can spot it. Anyways, that's all. I'm going to go and, yeah, edit this video. It's going to sound weird, but I'm probably going to edit this video on the same day that I'm uploading it. So, for everybody seeing this, hey, this is being worked on a few hours before you're seeing it. Or possibly earlier, depending on, you know, if you're seeing it a day after, a week after, a month after, whatever it may be. But if you're seeing it on release, hey, from a few hours earlier. Or I guess, I mean, this would also be like, I don't know, 12 hours earlier from recording, or something like that. But, as of editing, hey, from a few hours earlier. Alright, that's all. Play the outro.